Morning. Today, I'm talking to you about families and the love of a father. So, I'm going to share with you the story of the prodigal son. It's one of Jesus' parables and demonstrates how much our Father in heaven loves us. So, you see, there was this man. Let's call him Jethro. He was quite wealthy and had a farm and some businesses. He also had two sons, and we'll call them Joel and Jesse. Jesse was the youngest son and a bit of a tearaway. He got fed up with working for his dad and being bossed around by his older brother all the time. So one day he decided he was going to leave. He went to his father and said, "Dad, I don't want to live here anymore. This is really boring. I want to leave and see the world. Give me my inheritance now so that I can live life while I am still young." Now, back in the day, this was the biggest insult a son could give to his father, because you see, what Jesse was actually saying was, "Dad, you and the family are dead to me. I don't want anything to do with you anymore." This saddened Jethro, but he loved his son, so he gave him what he asked for. The next morning, Jesse got up really early and packed all his things and set off for the journey of a lifetime. He left without even looking back. Meanwhile, Joel stayed with Jethro and continued to work. In fact, he had to work even harder because he had to make up for Jesse. Jesse travelled to a far off land and stopped in a big city. He had plenty of money, but no self control. He lived the high life, drinking and gambling, partying till all hours. He thought he was having a great time and never thought about his family until one day all his money ran out. He hadn't even thought about working, and he hadn't invested any of his money, and now everything was gone. He had no choice but went and begged for a job with a local farmer. Now, the farmer knew Jesse was desperate, so he took him on, but he hardly paid him anything, not even enough to buy a decent meal. The farmer sent Jesse out into the fields to feed the pigs. Jesse was hungry, so hungry, in fact, that even the pig slops looked appetizing. Then, all of a sudden, Jesse came to his senses. He remembered his father and his family. He thought to himself, "Even my father's servants have plenty to eat." But Jesse was ashamed. He had insulted his dad so badly. He'd cut him off from his life. How could he go back? But what other choice was there? He would starve if he stayed here. He would say to his father that he didn't deserve to be treated as a son anymore, so would only come back as a servant. So off he set. As Jesse approached the family home, Jethro saw him in the distance. He couldn't believe his eyes. Could this be Jesse? Jethro was overjoyed. He ran to Jesse, and before Jesse could say anything, Jethro hugged and kissed him and took him back to the house. And when they got there, Jethro told his servants to prepare a big party to celebrate Jesse's return. He gave Jesse the finest new clothes to replace his rags and put a ring on his finger. And this was really significant because it meant that Jesse was a member of the family once again. Jethro forgave Jesse and accepted him back unconditionally because he loved his son no matter what he'd done. Now, I wonder, have you ever done anything wrong that you were really embarrassed or ashamed about? Something that maybe you thought you'd get into really big trouble for? Maybe you were scared to tell your parents. I know I've done things like that. Jesse was scared to go back home too. He'd done something so bad that he felt that he wasn't even worthy to be part of the family. But you know what? If we pluck up courage and say we're sorry, if we're honest about our mistakes, we will be forgiven, just as Jesse was. We might get into a little bit of trouble, but in the long run, it will strengthen our relationships and build trust. And it's the same with God. We call him our Father in heaven. He loves us more than any human can love. And yes, he does get sad when we get things wrong. But if we come to him and say we're sorry, there's nothing he loves more than forgiving us and welcoming us back into his family. After all, he sent his own son, Jesus, to be a sacrifice so that if we believe in him, we can be welcomed back into God's family. Thank you.